The second issue is dead teeth. Inside a tooth there's a root canal system. That's where the blood comes into the tooth. A root canal system is not a simple tube inside the tooth, and the tooth is not a simple solid piece of crystal. The tubes inside the tooth have anabranches, lateral canals, but the big problem is that the body of the tooth is punctured by millions of little tubules that are 8 bacteria wide. And in a front tooth there's perhaps 3 kilometres of them, in a back tooth there's 10 kilometres of them. And for over 100 years it's been a fact that you can never ever sterilise a dead tooth. All dead teeth, 100% of them, are infected. So what root canal tries to achieve is to clean out the root canal system as best they can and seal it up. And a successful root canal in reality reduces the infection to something that you can't feel. Now, the doctors who informed me of the problems of this said that just because you can't feel something doesn't mean it's inconsequential. I cannot feel my blood pressure at the moment. Oh, it doesn't matter. I can't feel my testosterone level. Doesn't matter. It doesn't work like this. So what happens with a root canal, if it's successful, it reduces the infection to something you can't feel. But many people relate that they do feel these teeth from time to time, and it's usually when they're run down and cannot fight the infection as well as they usually can. Now, historically, root canals were really started to do in the late 19th century, particularly in the United States. And here we had the ability to try and keep teeth which otherwise would have been extracted, and there was a lot of downsides with extracting teeth. If you lose a tooth, you can't chew as well. If you lose your front teeth, and remember 150 years ago most people were missing 2 or 3 front teeth by the time they were 25, you didn't look any good. And there were no comfy replacements for teeth, so there was a big downside for taking out teeth. And suddenly we have this method of keeping teeth which didn't seem to have any downside. However, quite quickly in the early part of the 20th century, researchers like Weston Price and other people started to realise that there was a problem here, and that these teeth were causing infections. And some English doctors came up with a focal theory infection. They believed that teeth and tonsils could be a focus of infection, and that they could create effects at a distance. And they started to remove these teeth, and they see the miracles that I see in my office when I take out these teeth. About the time World War I started, they developed some acrylics and ways of replacing teeth that were half serviceable. And so people started taking out teeth left, right and centre, and in fact it got to the point that people were starting to think that all teeth were bad, and they mutilated the jaws of a whole generation of people. I had a grand auntie who had all her teeth removed by her father just before she got married to save her husband the cost of looking after her teeth. For the next 40 or 50 years she had progressively worse and worse dentures that were very uncomfortable. And this was a time between the wars when teeth were taken out wholesale, left, right and centre. About the time of World War II, some professors, Riemann and Havers, did some science that tended to disprove the focal theory of infection. I don't think it was particularly good science, but it was jumped on because so many people had had their mouths mutilated with the previous theory. And so then it changed to the current vogue, which is to save all teeth at any costs. I see myself as actually not being in an extreme position. I'm going down the middle path. I'm saying that let's keep most teeth, the good ones, but if they're sick, if they're infected, perhaps we should remove those. We shouldn't keep them all if health is your agenda. If you want to keep your teeth, do root canals. You can keep your teeth. But if you want to be healthy, you might want to consider whether this technology is for you. The problem with root canals is you cannot sterilise the root canal system. They are always infected 100% of the time. And what happens is the bacteria that are trapped in those tubules, anabranches and lateral canals are now, when the tooth is root filled, deprived of oxygen. When you take oxygen away from bacteria, they change species into bacteria that are called anaerobes. The bacteria that are on your skin and in your gut are good for you generally, and they're air-breathing bacteria. Non-air breathing bacteria are the ones that smell bad, like when you don't turn your compost heap. Those are called anaerobes, and they classically have a sulfur-based metabolism and a sulfury smell. Your bad bacteria are things like gangrene, botulism, tetanus, meningococcus, and these are the bacteria that then inhabit the root canal system, and they can leak toxins into your body. In fact, even if you could sterilise a tooth, and this was done in the early 20th century, they boiled teeth and implanted bits of them in rabbits and gave rabbits the same diseases that parents had. And at times these teeth had been boiled, so they were sterile. But the bacterial toxins in the cell wall of anaerobes are toxic, and it doesn't matter whether the bacteria are dead and not reproducing, which is the definition of sterilisation. The toxic chemicals are there anyway. There's no way, just to repeat, that you can sterilise a dead tooth. They are always infected. If it makes common sense to you to have dead infected tissue in your body, keep the tooth. If it doesn't, maybe think about following what I think is common sense, is to keep dead infected tissue somewhere else than in my body.